So I'm here at Bonnie Doon with Julie's mum, and we're here, and it's Julie's 60th birthday, but I just thought we might just have a little chat with Faye here, who I've known since I was about 12 years of age.
Right. Yes.
And Faye has been a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a wife, a working woman, bringing up a family, all of that stuff. She has been a person who, like when I go to their house when I was young, they had supper, which was cheese and all these yummy, delicious things. We didn't have supper at our house, and she had a modern home. That was great as well. You had all those little dogs,
Oh, those yappers, banging on the door when we were eating, when we were entertaining. Scratches all over the door. And now I can't stand dogs yapping.
And Faye's also an artist, and she does beautiful little sketches and drawings, usually one a day.
Try to, yes.
And then she makes little cards for her kids and her grandkids, and I've even got like a magnet of her sketch that she's done of me. Well, I better say Julie, me, Mary, and Charlene.
Yes.
So we've been in a lot of her little sketches, and you do them off photographs mainly.
No, I get ideas from photos, yes, but a lot of the early stuff I did was just from my memory.
Yeah. And can I ask, on how old are you now? I know, but
I'm in my 86th year now.
And you and Clive travel. They're always travelling all over to see their kids and their grandkids. They've been very much in their lives, which is fabulous. That you were able to keep and continue relationships with them all.
Hopefully. Got to catch up with Raven. They've gone.
Yeah, well, she's up far north. Yeah, and it's probably a bit tricky now for you to drive that far.
Yeah, too far. Yeah, probably too far.
Yeah. And so let's get down to whatever you feel like. If there's a message that you want to put out to the world, we can talk about anything that you want. Whether it's your working life, your artistic life, your parent life, your sibling life, whatever you...
Now, we were talking before about working lives, weren't we?
Yeah.
And how things just haven't changed for women, no matter what they say. Yes, and how women really aren't good managers at work.
Yeah, so I kind of agree. Like, we want women to be something and recognised in the workplace and paid the same and all of that, but also women sometimes I find are quite micromanaging. That's been my experience. It's like they seem to think that if you work underneath them, I've not had very many women managers that have kind of tried to bring you up and be a part.
No solidarity.
Yeah, and then they'll throw you under the bus to make themselves look better. Not all women, and that's probably quite negative, but
still, like I finished working in the 90s, and you're still working, of course.
Damn it.
And you're still having the same experiences.
I am. Yeah. So that's interesting. So you started working, how old were you? Because I know Faye was always working when I met her.
Well, I started work at 15, like most kids did those days. My elder sister got the full education, and the other three of us didn't. We weren't worth it. But and then I got married and had kids, and then I went back to work in 1969.
Holy moly, I was 4.
Mm.
Yep.
Julie was about that age. Oh,
Julie
still
was
at kinder.
definitely
Yeah.
that age because we're nearly the same age.
Well, I think I went back to work before that. I used to go and work. There was always a lot of work in factories around Ferntree Gully.
Yeah, well, because my
Well,
mum
good,
worked at the
yeah.
Rosella factory around Shepparton, and then she worked at the TAB. So, like you, she
Yeah.
wasn't well, what we consider well educated, but
Not
definitely
no.
had the smart skills to hold down a job and be a part of that. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think teenagers then, well, where I worked in the office, we were trained at colleges and things, and then not a huge amount of it expected of us, a day's work, but emotionally we were well looked after. Got sick, got sent home, that sort of thing, but that's all gone now.
Yeah, I find sometimes people are coming in when they're sick to work because they feel obligated and they're scared of the judgment, instead of saying, like, I'm sick, and then they go, well, I know a lot of people get sick and I know a lot of people take a lot of time off, but there's the other people that bring illness into the work because they're sick and they're too scared that they're not looking like they can work. So
I worked at a place, what was it? I hated it. Cousins soap, detergent, things like that.
yeah, right.
I literally hated it. I worked in the accounting department and I got bronchitis, and I think I had it 3 times. And then they docked me, and I was appalled. I'd never been docked in my life for being sick. I'd probably never been that sick. And so that started a bit of an argument, and I said, have you had your air conditioning cleaned out? And the filters cleaned, and they said, oh yes. I worked at an big air conditioning company before that, and I knew that the maintenance department of where I worked, I knew they didn't do their maintenance properly. Maintenance was where they made their money. You sent out your bill, you didn't necessarily clean out.
Just going to move this closer because there's a car coming up.
Yes.
Yep.
Didn't necessarily clean out the filters. Yes.
Ah, that's interesting. So the workplace had some, I guess, well, we were also talking about, we'll go into a new thing, we were also talking about like occupational health and safety probably wasn't such a thing back then. That sort of came into play in the 80s and the 90s, which is great.
Well, that's right, because prior to that, in 1969, I did a bit of temping work.
Yeah.
And I'd lost all my skills, and I gained that with my temping work, and then I went and worked at the air conditioning place. I loved that job. It was fabulous. And I was overworked there. Well, I would do the tenders. I would work in it. I'd do all the calculating of the tenders, and the more I did, the more work they'd take on.
Yeah.
And I think I lasted there about 5 years and had a massive breakdown, and I left. I had a bit of a breakdown. I didn't have a massive one. And then the next place I went to was Tupperware.
I remember that.
Tupperware.
Tupperware.
And I had a breakdown then.
Do you think,
and then I think they paid me 3 months, put me off, which was probably highly illegal. And then I went straight into, afterwards, I went straight into workers' comp and found out all about how much they hadn't looked after me. Yeah.
Because I remember you and Clive catching the suburban trains into the city. You both worked in the city. I was like, God, our parents work in the city, and you take off early in the morning.
That's
and then
right.
like turn Julie's TV on and to wake her up. And so then the kids were kind of like looking up. They were teenagers, so it wasn't like they were little kids because you'd done all of that work. But when can I just circle back? Like, so when you said you had a small breakdown, was that like a panic attack thing or?
No, I just always felt sick and I didn't sleep and I had no energy. And I go to the doctor and the doctor say, oh, you're a hypochondriac. And then one day, I think they sent me for tests to the Shepherd Foundation or something. I was on the train and the whirly things on the train, they were upsetting me. I remember that. And I got to this place and I was so ill they couldn't do any testing. So they said, oh, you're too ill, you know, we aren't going to test you today, and just left me. And I remember I staggered out and I said, can you call me a cab at the reception? And I sat in the gutter and a taxi came. And then they took me to where Clive worked at Collins Place in Collins Street. And I think one of the watchmen or something there must have wheeled out an office chair, put me on that.
Oh, wow.
Wheeled me in. And then I think Clive carried me upstairs, I think. And then they took me into the hospital part of the bank. And then I think we got a cab home or something. And then I went to the doctors, I think, and then I went to hospital. Yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah.
That was bloody tough.
And, you know, just, that wouldn't happen to you these days. Yeah. Now mental health is...
Yeah, they try to look after
so
that.
What actually happened to me, I suppose I went into depression and I just couldn't stand up. I couldn't do anything for probably 3 months.
Yeah.
Probably because no one attended. Nobody told me anything about it. And I think when I went to a psychiatrist and he was a nutter. And then I went to the Richmond clinic because that's the area I worked in. And he had a clinic in Boronia. And he said to me at that time, oh, you're better. And I went on probably, I think it was Valium, it was like about 1 milligram or something. And that got me better. And it sort of, people say, oh, it's a prop, but it shuts your mind off for and I'm sure a lot of people realise this when they have a problem, that they've probably had anxiety all their life. And I think that's what they have to work on with this mental health.
To put, and I guess with Valium, well, I've only taken it a few times, but I guess with Valium, it kind of like puts your mind at rest. It's not like running here, there and everywhere. And then that can give you a bit of sleep, a bit of calm. And then when you go off Valium, but now they seem to put people on medication that does so much. And then I find like people that I know have been on medication for 20, 30 years for depression or anxiety or whatever, and they cannot get off.
That's what I was told, you don't go off it, but I did.
And we don't even know exactly what it was that they had you on then, but at least like you were able to come back.
That's right. I can't really remember what I was on. I remember it was probably, wasn't Valium, but it was pretty strong. And one of the chaps at work who I talked to him was one of the directors at the air conditioning place. And he said, oh, that's what I take, and I'm a big man. So he told me to cut, and I just cut it back myself, and then I gradually cut it back, and then I went on to that 1 milligram of Valium. But that Valium originally was incredibly strong. You know, you see people walking around like they were on
zombies.
It's a drug.
Yeah, and it's a muscle relaxant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't called Valium. I can't remember what it's called, but it was Valium. Yes.
Oh.
So unfortunately, probably nothing's changed in the workplace, because I would imagine people are under a huge amount of stress these days, worrying about whether they keep their job, whether someone's going to come along and bulldoze their way into
their lifestyle, their way,
yes,
their position, their power.
That's right.
And yeah, so
So
you've got to,
nothing's changed.
yeah, my sister's a bank manager, and unbelievable. I don't know how she's stuck in it, but it's overwhelming. And you know, as you get older too, you start to doubt yourself because you've had that many people at you, you know, with their own motivations and agendas,
That's right.
hidden agendas.
That's right. Well, I went back to temping after I did 2 insurance companies, two years each, and then I went and worked at Cousins, and then I went into temping work.
And that's kind of probably a good thing
Oh,
because
you can do a
because-
day's
yeah,
work.
and then you go away.
All those
None of that.
other people that you work with don't do a day's work, and you feel good about it because you don't have to stay there forever.
Yeah, you don't learn about
yeah.
the
Yeah,
the
when I
things.
worked at the Department of Primary Industry, that was a really good example. There was one girl there, and she would run all over the office, answering phones, huge office. And the rest of the workers hadn't been put on permanent. So we worked right near the Yarra, and they would just go downstairs to the pub. There was a pub downstairs. They just spend their time down there. So I'd be there and this other lovely girl. would
So
be
two of
running
you
around.
propping up the
Yeah,
company,
yes,
really,
yes.
and people going on long lunches and things like
Oh,
that. That
definitely.
does
Yes,
happen.
yes.
I remember that happening in the education department too.
The
There was
government department.
a few hours off in the middle of the day where people would go out for lunch, and I did that too. I quite liked going away for a few hours if you were part of that part.
Clive did it. And
Yeah.
Clive was a messenger at the ANZB. He'd spend most of the day at the pub with everybody, and then they got a bit tougher on the girls, and the girls would have to stay in the office.
And answer the phones because somebody needed to be
but
there.
he could go. He could go out
Yeah.
and spend all that time in the pub.
So yeah, that
And
was.
then I watched the girls. They would train the young men. These lovely girls would train the young men, and the young men would get promoted. And
yeah.
they stayed there. That was the bit I couldn't understand. They stayed there.
The women stayed
Yeah,
there.
they stayed there in those jobs.
Yeah, because
I
they
would have moved on.
because of
Yeah,
fear,
Yeah,
fear, I
so
suppose.
nothing's changed.
Fear and permanency.
Except you don't get long lunches.
Yeah, you definitely don't get that. And even like working online, like you monitored with that.
Mm.
So I noticed in a state government job that I had, like if you're on Skype, you had to have your little thing. So if you didn't touch the computer, they would like, oh, where have they gone? Where are they? Why are they not on their thing? So I think that's another form of micromanagement
That's
now.
right. Yeah, well, Gemma, when we stayed at Gemma, she said I have to start work at 9, so that would be what it was.
Yeah.
What if you work in home? I'll just start at 9.
Yeah, that's
Start
exactly
at 10 and work
right.
till 6, but
No, yeah, and that's what you think. Oh, working from home, I could do. No, there's still all these bloody rules, and it's like if you can do the job, let me do the job, but let me do it the way that works for me, not that works for everybody else. But let's swing back to the art now. So you went back to college, or
when I was a teenager, I was going to stay with my aunt and uncle, and I went to Swinburne and did a course there. And I didn't do any more art until, well, I used to do a lot of art before that. And then I didn't do any art. I think I started oils in the 70s. And didn't have the space. And then I went back to TAFE in 2007. Yeah, they were good years. Yeah.
and that's
I learned a lot.
yeah, and that's where you started like doing your sketches a day, and that like she's got some fabulous sketches of well, her husband Clive. I really like those.
I don't look like that, he says. I don't know what you're doing to
He
me.
bloody does. And you know, like see things on their Facebook of their travels and things like that, and connection with family and country, really. Yeah, yeah. So very working class family, but to me, even though like at the end of the day, I come from money down, not my bloody money, but my dad's money. And unfortunately, I picked the wrong parent to be born in because we ended up with nothing, but that's okay. But you guys had to work, like, my mum and dad both worked as well for a while, and and then it just continues on, like you got to bring the money in.
Well, my mother worked.
Yeah,
I
right.
get quite offended when I see people, in this era, and they say, oh, the mother has to work now, and they have to have 2 jobs, husband and wife have to have 2 jobs
And
to
then,
keep the family going. Well, Clive had about 3, even when I was working.
because you would have had a fair mortgage then too.
No, I think we just had the lifestyle. I think our mortgage.
Yeah, well, the cheese.
Our mortgage payment was £40 a month.
Well, that was well before I knew you because we're in dollars.
Oh, dollars. Yeah, $40. Yeah, $40 a month. That's what our bank loan was in Baronia. That's all we paid. It was just the lifestyle, I think, that we had. We used to take the kids away a lot and things like that. Always have holidays. But my mother worked. My father had his own business. And I'm pretty sure my grandmother worked too.
Yeah, right.
She came from a don't know if it's about a wealthy family, but her grandmother. Yeah, her grandmother. When my grandmother's mother died, their lifestyle stopped. So we assume the money was coming from
her
the UK somewhere.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So that my mother grew up, and she expected the same thing when she was being elder.
So I feel like we're going to close this up now because it's getting hot out here at Bonnie Doon, beautiful Bonnie Doon, and we can hear other people having a great time up there, eating and drinking. Lovely to chat with you, and I'll forward this to you. I'm just going to say bye, people.
That's great. What a great idea. I know they used to do this